And we are back at the Huddle and Flow podcast. I am Steve White with my dude Jim Trotter. JT, midweek, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, Steve. You know, it's been a productive week. We started off with a bang with Sean Payton, and we're going to end the week with a bang with our two boys you're about to introduce.
Absolutely. We got our man Thomas Warren on the ones and twos behind the scenes producing. We're the Howard Mob about to bring it to you. And Jim, you know that we're a family right here. Me, you, and Thomas, the Howard Mob. But today we're going to bring in Michael Holley and Mike Smith from the Brothers for Another television show that airs daily on Peacock. But these are two guys we've known for a long time, and they've known each other for a long time. They are truly brothers from another mother. They're brothers in our circle. And, you know, as Black journalists, we are often we're really united. If we see each other in a different city or wherever, we do have a clique because there's so few of us, and there's a bond. You know, and I've known these guys for a long time from our days covering the NBA, but the importance of the relationship and then seeing what these two have built in terms of friendships, in terms of careers, and actually a journalistic niche that you and I and a lot of others have actually followed.
Yeah, these are what I respect about the two of them. First and foremost, they're just two real dudes. You know, you can have conversations with them about anything, as people will hear, as our listeners will hear when they check out this podcast. They're real dudes. They're real smart. They're accomplished. And, but, you know, I remember the first time I met or saw Michael Smith in person. We were actually at the Raiders, and we were in that cramped little media room, and it was playoff time. And all of a sudden the room is just crowded and everything else. And this brother gets up in the back of the room with this baritone voice, and he starts, you know, directing these questions at Gruden. I'm like, who is this? You know, didn't know him at all. And then find out he's this young dude, you know, because I had been grinding for, I don't know, more than a decade trying to get to that point where I'm covering the NFL. And this is a young dude. And then you read his work and you knew right away, man, he was somebody to keep an eye on in the profession. So, and later met Michael Holley after that, you know. So, no, I couldn't be more proud that we're having him on the show. And I think I know our listeners are going to enjoy the conversation.
Really going to enjoy it, especially, you know, people who are in the business, people who want to get into the business. Because as you said, Jim, these are two highly intellectual guys. I mean, highly intellectual people. They've been through several different forms of the evolution of this craft, but they've also covered the Patriots. And they've got some stories from behind the wall that we've never heard before. So you out there are about to find out some stuff about Bill Belichick and about how that operation is run that you are going to find really, really intriguing.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know that anyone knows that organization better than Michael Holley does. The fact that he was allowed behind the curtain to spend quality time with Bill Belichick, to see how the operation works, to be able to sit down and watch film with Bill Belichick, and then write a book about all of this. That was why when we start our interview with him, that right out of the gate, I need to know a little bit more about the man that he wrote about.
That's right. Well, the Patriots may be 6-7 right now, but we're really about to learn a ton about the man driving the force. So on that note, let's bring in Michael Holley and Michael Smith. Oh, Jim, we are joined by two mics on the mics. Two brothers that we have known for a long time. They've got their own show on Peacock, Brothers from Another. Let's welcome in, I should say, Michael Smith and Michael Holley, two cats we've known for a long time.
Woo!
Brilliant.
What's going on?
Brilliant on the mics. What's up, Mike?
Good to see y'all.
They're not just friends of the programs; they're friends. So this is cool.
Right.
Although I have to say this,
long time.
Like, you know, I know how accomplished Michael Smith is and everything he's accomplished and all that. But, bro, when we're sitting here with a Pulitzer Prize winner, a New York Times best-selling author,
6
and
times,
and an associate professor, you know, I'm like, dang, Mike Smith is
Slacking.
No,
You just said
no. He's not slacking. But man, that bar is set high when you're dealing with that other brother over there with all that.
Listen.
Yeah. But I know him win though, so it's cool. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like
right.
We all did.
I got it on the ground floor, so none of that stuff don't intimidate me. You know.
And he knows a lot of stuff too. He knows a lot of stuff that he needs to keep quiet. So
I feel you. Tell people that relationship goes back 21 years. Tell people how it began.
Yeah, Mike. Mike, man, like, what's up with that? He snorted. He was just like, oh, whatever.
with a still unanswered phone call. I was a young whippersnapper leaving New Orleans. Had never been outside of the South. I was going up north for the first time into Boston, and had my family concerned about my well-being in Boston, and my housing situation fell through in the summer of 1999. And Jerry Brewer, he was like, yo, you need to hit up this Pulitzer Prize winning brother, holding it down. Oh, I'm sorry. My phone ringing. There we go. Pulitzer Prize. You need to hit up this Pulitzer Prize winning brother. This columnist holding it down in Boston. His name is Michael Holley. And so I hit him up. Actually, no, I called the Boston Globe news desk. I was like, hey, I'm Michael Smith. I'm going to be the intern. Would you mind giving me Michael Holley's number? And I'm going to come back to that in a second. I was like, would you mind giving me Michael Holley's number? I was like, oh, sure. So they gave me the number. I called Michael Holley. I leave this message. I'm like, hey, man, listen, I'm your mentee. I'm the intern, and I'm your mentee. I've been assigned to you, whatnot, coming in. Just wondering if while I get my housing situation together, I could just crash for like a night or whatever, night or two. Man, let's just say I found my way somewhere else. I found an apartment somewhere. But it wasn't for him. It wasn't for his help. And meanwhile, the policy at the Globe was they were not to give out his phone number ever again to anybody. After I called, I just needed a hand. I needed a helping hand, and my man left me hanging. Thankfully, I against him.
Left the most rambling, craziest message on my voicemail. Hey, you don't know me. I'm Michael Smith. I'm in the car right now with my family. I got no place to stay. Can I stay at your house? I'm like, yo, who is this dude? Who is this? I'm calling the Globe. I'm like, yo, who's this Michael Smith dude? I said, don't give him my number. Why y'all give him my number? He's not good. But the thing is,
why they gave it to him, right? You know why they gave it to you, right? He's a black man. You're a black man.
But what's crazy though? It's crazy that it was never quite the mentor-mentee relationship. We just, when we finally did talk and without the crazy phone calls and all that stuff, we met in person. We just hit it off, and we spent that summer. The mentoring probably happened, late nights, diners, listening to music, just chilling. Going on assignments together, because Mike, what he didn't tell you is that he was he was a prodigy. He was a prodigy as an intern. So they gave him, and this is a good word for a lot of interns out there, you show yourself to be competent, they'll give you assignments. So from the start, he was able to handle what they gave him. So they kept giving him more. And it was obvious that when they offered him another internship before he finished the first one, it was obvious that he was on that track to be at the Boston Globe full time.
Yeah, that's when I would see y'all and Coach Willie May at the Celtics games. We'd be going out and eat Italian food afterwards. back in the old NBA circuit, the old Chitlin circuit. Yes, all right, so since you guys both live in New England, we got to ask you about how the folks up there are dealing with the Patriots season. Kind of give us, and Michael Holley, you can start just how they're dealing with it, because they're so used to being the Kings, and now it looks like the Buffalo Bills are going to win this division. What's the feeling like? Is there any panic? Is there Tom Brady abandonment feelings? Like what are people saying up there?
And Steve, let's let the listeners know too. These are two guys who can speak on it, because Michael Holley has written 3 books, either about a Patriot or on the Patriots, and Michael Smith used to be a beat writer for the Patriots. So these are two perfect guys to speak on this.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys know what it's like in New England. Tom Brady when Tom Brady was going through Deflategate, everybody was like a lawyer in New England. Everybody had like a law degree and talking about filing amicus briefs and let's take this to the Supreme Court and what's going on and this is crazy. And so Tom was their guy. But when Tom left on St. Patrick's Day in Boston, you left Boston on St. Patrick's Day? Oh, okay. For real, Tom? Okay. All right, dog. I see you. So this whole abandonment by Tom Brady, it's a lot of anger from a significant part of the fan base. And some people are just like, hey, Brady gave us 6, so we're good. But
how can you not? How can that fan base not be good?
I always say that.
Right.
You went to 9. You went to 9.
Right. Yeah. He should have 8.
I'm sitting here saying, oh, yeah, that time. Was it the first time we went to Houston for the Super Bowl or the second time? Oh, no, that was New Orleans. Oh, that was Arizona the first time. So like when you start doing stuff like that, then you know you spoiled. Just chill. But I think, you tell me if you disagree, Mike, it comes down to this. They've got Belichick, and they have cap space next year. They feel like if you got Belichick, you'll be all right. Even without Tom Brady this year, people know they're not a great team. They'll be fortunate to win 9 games. And even if they win 9, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. But I think people just are confident with what they've got there in the infrastructure.
Yeah, I would say that they bought themselves a transition year. The dynasty, the Brady era of the dynasty might be over, but much like, Pop with the San Antonio Spurs or, even the 49ers, back in the day, it was interrupted, but it wasn't really ended. I don't know if the dynasty has ended so much as it's been interrupted, so much they're taking a break. And even this year, man, Michael and I went back and forth. I was in denial about just how, relatively speaking, just how bad a team they were. And we had a little, running bet going about whether or not they'd have a winning season this year. And I was feeling pretty good after 45-0. I'm like, oh, snap, this is how it starts. They're about to get on a run. And they went and got, humbled this last week by the Rams. And so, yeah, I think most sophisticated sports fans, and New England's got a lot of sophisticated sports fans, they understand what they've experienced and how unparalleled it is. You got some other ones that were born into it. And like you said, Michael, they spoiled, don't know how to act. They ain't had nothing but, prime rib and filet mignon their whole life. So they get a hamburger and they get upset.
That's
not
right.
Realizing that, they still got the master chef at work and he'll find a way to get them back in business in no time.
You know what I'm curious about is Michael Holley, you had a chance to get behind the curtain with Belichick, and not many people have gotten that opportunity. One, I wonder, how did you get it? And 2, what was that like during that time you were writing the first book on what was then a budding Patriots dynasty?
Yeah, I think I got him, Jim. I think I got him at the right time because I know, man, he even told me, like, this Bill Belichick, I remember talking to him around 2011. And at that point, he'd already been through Spygate. He'd had some issues. And he was like, his trust in people just went down. So he was like, he told me in 2011, now it wouldn't have, if you had asked me right now to do what you did in 2002, I would have said no. But in 2002, when I started it, he was like, he had won the Super Bowl the year before, but nobody was saying this is the greatest coach of all time. His overall record was still a losing record, even after that Super Bowl run. So he was an NFL historian. So I think he liked the attention of documenting what they were doing because he was very proud of what they were doing. But I got him at the right time. And it went back to an article I did on him, a column I did on him in his first year, 2000. They were 5-11. And late in the season, nobody's paying attention to the Patriots. I went down and I spent like 2 or 3 days with him. I said, I want to watch film with you. I'm going to see what it's like. Just we always focus on the Sunday NFL. I want to see the Monday through Saturday NFL. So I watched film with him. After doing that for a couple of days, I said, man, I thought I knew a little something about football. I don't know anything. I said, I'd love to do a book on this one day. He was like, all right, well, let me know when you're ready. So that was in 2000. So I came back. I went to Chicago briefly, came back to Boston. I was like, hey, remember that book we talked about? He said, yeah, I remember. I said, I think I'm ready to do it. He was like, okay. So he had to figure out some terms. And one of the big parts was I had to take a leave from the Boston Globe to kind of establish that I wasn't going to take what I saw behind the scenes and take it to the media. So that was one of the agreements I had. Now, for those who don't know, Mike Smith knows this, and you brothers know it, but for those who don't, leave from the Boston Globe means not getting paid for it. Brother wasn't getting paid for a year.
Right.
And the book project, they went 9-7 in 2002. So not a lot of publishers saying, hey, let's hear about that 9-17. So I did not have a deal.
Oh,
I remember asking Mike Smith, hey man, you got $50?
Mike was like, I remember
exactly. Remember that phone call? I never got a return call. Remember that?
No, I got a little acknowledgement in the back of the first book or something like that. Me and Flower Bakery, Michael Holley, we both got shout outs.
Yeah, but it was great. But I think I told Mike this to answer the other part of the question. Man, what a football education. It was like I went from like junior year in high school to like grad school in just like over a year and a half. It was amazing. And Mike, I don't know if you remember this. I told Mike as I was going through the process, I said, man, and it's actually turned out to be the case. I said, we're lucky as journalists that a lot of these dudes don't write. Some of these scouts, their detail, like that, how they're reporting, that frankly, they're reporting. They're like, yeah, I talked to a source who told me this, but then I talked to another source and they're getting into information about a guy's background, what kind of player he was, what kind of family he comes from. It was reporting. I was looking at some of these scouting reports. I'm like, oh my God, if these dudes ever decide that they want to get into our field, we're in trouble. Yeah. And quite frankly, some of it is happening. It's happening to a degree. Sure. That some people from scouting backgrounds have found their way onto TV and podcasts. So yeah, it was great. It was really it opened my eyes and it showed me how much I didn't know about football.
Can each of you tell us your own experience, a Belichick story that maybe the public doesn't know, that sheds a light on maybe who this guy is that we might not know based on your experiences?
I mean, Michael, you could tell a story that I don't remember.
Oh, I love this one.
I guess. Okay, so this is before you tell it. All I'm gonna say is, I guess this is Michael. Tell me this is the right analogy. I don't know if I've used this with you before. Is this my Dan Marino Super Bowl 19 story? As in, like, oh, I'm just gonna be there. This is gonna be the norm. This is just I just took it for granted. Not that Marino took it for granted, but like, I just took it for granted this is going to be the type of, experience I was going to have as a sports writer. Is that what it was? Would you say?
No question.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. All right. Tell the story.
This story sounds like a lie. I promise you it's true. Like, so they win Super Bowl 36. First of all, I got, I think statute of limitations is up. So before the game, I said, I'd like to just write some column about how the Patriots will upset the Rams. Patriots 14-point dogs. I'm like, I just don't see it. Bill Belichick says, come to my room. This is like the day before the game. This is like maybe it's like a Friday. It's like Friday before the Super Bowl. He said, come to my room in New Orleans. I'm like, man, I want to write how you guys are going to beat the Rams, but I can't do that. He goes, why can't you? I said, I can't make the case. He said, yes, you. Okay, what am I doing here? It's like, am I chopped liver? Like, what's up? He says, I know you covered the NBA. This is taking a fast break team and turning it into a half court game. He said, they got more talent than us. They're faster than us. They cannot beat us in half court basketball. That's what the game's going to be tomorrow. We're going to hold them. We're going to slow them down. We're going to hit them. And he said, go look at their turnovers. He said, everybody keeps talking about their offense, but they turn the ball over a lot. And they'll give us a couple of turnovers. We've got to take advantage of it. Then he said, hey, stop focusing on Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner is not the quarterback of the St. Louis Rams. The quarterback of the St. Louis Rams is Marshall Faulk. So if you know where Marshall Faulk is going, that's their whole offense. We're gonna treat Marshall Faulk like he's the quarterback. We're gonna hit him every time he comes out of the backfield. We're gonna hit him. We're gonna follow him. We're gonna frustrate him. So I pretty much said, okay, all right. Thanks for the column, man. So I wrote that column. There's gonna be an upset tonight. Patriots over the Rams, and I kind of gave my talking points, which were his. But the next, like on Sunday, after the game, they beat the Rams, and we're in a hotel. It's like 2:00 in the morning. We're hanging out in a hotel lobby. Me, Michael Smith, and Bill Belichick drinking. Just drinking and just telling football stories. Bill Belichick says, "What's that place with the Hurricanes?" We're like, "Pat O'Brien's?" He's like, "Yeah, let's go there." I was like, "Dude, you just won the Super Bowl. You will never get through. Like, it ain't gonna happen. You're like, but this is where he was. Like that. Bill Belichick's not like that now. That Bill Belichick was just like, oh, okay, I'm just hanging out. He was normal. So we talked till like 4. He was like, I guess I got to go to bed. I got this press conference tomorrow, this MVP press conference with Brady and the commissioner. He went to bed. Michael Smith, son of New Orleans, says, let's go to Bourbon Street. Let's just go around. We walking around. We didn't go to bed. We wind up, I think it's at the Is there a Marriott on Canal Street, Mike?
There is.
Yeah.
We wind up at the Marriott on Canal Street for breakfast. We sit down to breakfast. We turn around. Who's behind us but Don Shula, who wants to talk to us about the game the night before. He's like, man, they won the Super Bowl with a waiver wire team. This is crazy. So, I mean, it was like Belichick used to be like that all the time. He would joke around. He'd talk about music. I remember driving with him one time from Boston to his hometown of Annapolis, and we just talked about music most of the drive. Concerts he's been to, like it's
What kind of music? You can't leave it there. It wasn't like Beethoven. What was he talking about? Because he's a rocker.
It's like he's a rocker. He's more like a rock and roll guy. So I got some of his references, but some of them is like, man, I'm more of like I was brought up in an R&B hip hop household, little reggae, but he was talking about U2. He was talking about the Stones, Springsteen, Bon Jovi, obviously. So we had and he put on the Beatles. He put on, hey, check this out. Put on some of his music.
So Mike Smith, what happened to him? Mike Holley said he used to be like that. What do you think happened?
Oh man.
Because as a beat writer, you got a little different perspective here, I'm sure.
Yeah, but what's interesting though, it's funny you say that because Michael and I were talking about Kyrie Irving on today's show earlier. And what I didn't say, Michael, was that I just wonder how much my perspective on access is colored by coming into the business and dealing with the New England Patriots. Because it's one of those, like, I expected nothing, so I've grown to expect nothing or not to depend on access, for my information. So I guess I'm more okay with it than a lot of people are. What happened to Belichick? Probably, 2002, Boston. You know what I mean? Getting rid of Drew Bledsoe, and watching some of the media continue to, criticize him and in some cases crucify him for some of his personnel decisions. I think he just got a little jaded over the years early on, and then he won another one in 2003 and another one in 2004, and at that point, he got a chance to do things his way. Because what I was going to say to you, Michael, was when you caught him in early on, like you said, I wonder how much of him was still smarting, maybe from the PR in both Cleveland and New York, and even 2000, and maybe somebody got in his ear and was like, you know, you got to find a way to break down this perception of you as this, you know, this grouch, to where he, at least back then he cared, but once he started winning, he didn't have to care anymore. You know, he just could do things his way without any kind of concern about how he was perceived, because he was stacking Lombardis.
I asked this, I wonder, can he be content with those 6 that he has? Or now with Tom gone, is he the type of personality that says, I got to get one without him, without Tom?
I think I don't think it's a Tom thing, man. This guy, like, he's going to die on the job.
You think so?
Yeah. He ain't giving that up.
Yeah.
Really?
I think the idea of him needing to win one without Tom would suggest that he is somehow concerned about how the rest of the world perceives the Patriots dynasty. Like, it's bigger than, I agree with you, Michael. It's bigger than Tom Brady. Like, that would be assigning Tom Brady. That would be Bill Belichick assigning Tom Brady a level of importance that I don't think he does. And that doesn't mean he doesn't respect him. It doesn't mean he doesn't value him and appreciate him. But, you know, I don't think that'd be like, oh, I got to prove something. Like, to who? You know, who exactly does Bill Belichick feel like he has to prove something to? It's the same thing with his boy Nick Saban. Remember, for years, it'd be like, yo, Nick Saban, he got to come back to the NFL, you know, because he flamed out with the Dolphins and he got to prove himself on the highest level. Like, to who? Nick Saban's worried about Nick Saban and Miss Terry. Like, he ain't worried about what we say about his legacy, you know?
So let me ask you this now. Now, you know, we've all been in this business for a while, and we see kind of where, you know, if we can pivot off the Patriots a little, what we're doing is black men, and how we've gotten this opportunity. Jim and I with the Huddle and Flow podcast, you guys with brothers from another. What about getting this opportunity now to tell? We've been storytellers, right? We told other people's stories, but now there's context we can put on it, right? Now there's perspective we can put on. What about having these avenues to put our perspectives on this and to tell stories in ways that they haven't been told, and having the platform to do that? And Mike Smith, I'll talk to you. You know, we'll start with you, and Mike Holley, you can follow, because, you know, Jim and I, we're fearless. We're kind of like, you know, we have to tell truths that haven't been told, from perspectives that haven't been told. How do you guys handle it?
Same way, man. I mean, I just think it's a matter of just being unapologetic and being able to look yourself in the mirror and know that you told your truth. I mean, the way I've always gone about it is just like, you know, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna say what I think, and I'm not in it for promotion, either from a professional standpoint or, you know, how it's received and how it's, you know, shared or celebrated. Like, I don't do this for likes and retweets. It's like, I'm telling you like I see it, and if that resonates, cool. If it doesn't, cool. But it's how I see the story. It's how I see the issue. You know, just in terms of specifics to this project, that was the one mandate for me to come out of retirement and to do this again with Michael Holley was, you know, there will be no editorial oversight as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't mean we don't have bosses. It doesn't mean we don't have producers that we respect. But what we talk about and how we talk about it starts and ends with me and Michael. And that was a must, that we were going to have the freedom to talk about topics that we wanted to talk about that resonated with us, and be fearless in that. Steve, you're right. That's the word. I mean, it's just, you know, if you're censoring yourself, man, I mean, I would imagine, thankfully I've never really had to do that. I would imagine that's a pretty frustrating existence to really want to say something, but not be able to say it. Because even before I got my own show, you know, I always felt like I could find a way to say what I wanted to say. You know, like even if there were, I'd be lying if I said they weren't spoken or unspoken boundaries per se. but it doesn't mean I couldn't be me within those lines. So I always felt like I was true to myself and authentic to myself. But the more I advanced in the business, whether it was his and hers and beyond, or even now Brother from Another, I always felt like I was, that once I got that autonomy, then it was just like, whatever. Plus, man, and I don't mean to go on and on about it. For me, at least, once you've been through some shit, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
What you gonna do?
Right, right.
Like at this point, what you gonna do to me that ain't already been done? So like, what is it? Like, that word "feel" is what exactly is there to fear? I fear not being true to myself more than I fear some kind of consequences and repercussions.
Oh, there you go. Nice little life reference right there.
That's my joint right there. That's
shout out to life.
But I mean, but look, you know what? You know who you just sounded like? The guy you just described before you, Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Why should we care? I'm going to be true to myself. Who do I have to prove stuff to?
I mean, I'm not saying I got Lombardis or nothing like that, but I guess it's just
no. But I mean, no. But I mean, just in terms of how you handle, how you handle an approach.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, right. Fellas, it was time. I felt like it was time for this to happen. And when this came up, and it just came up. It came up pretty quickly, and there's some people at NBC who had asked me, "Hey, have you thought about doing radio again?" No, not really. Peacock is looking to do some things. Are you interested? I said, well, I'm interested in listening. And once they started talking about what the plan was, and all they said, it truly happened like this. It said, and if you were willing to do this with some, I said, okay, stop right there, Michael Smith. Michael Smith. If we're talking about doing it with somebody, it's Michael Smith. This is because it's time to do something like this. And I think I was in a different place because, Mike, you said you've always just kind of done what you're going to do, been true to yourself. I don't think I really was like that. I felt like I was doing a bit of a balancing act for a while. When I was a beat writer, I was doing a balancing act because I'm on a beat. So I always had like I can't go full out. I can't give the full me because, if I'm going to be a beat writer, I can't throw my opinions out there fully how I see this because then I lose some credibility on the beat. And then as a columnist, in Boston, I felt like, and this is me doing this to myself, limiting the scope of what I was going to write about because I was in Boston. I did some national stuff, but okay, I'm in Boston. Then on radio, I never felt like I could just give them everything I was on the radio. And I did it for 13 years.
Why? I'm curious. Why did you feel that?
I wasn't totally trusting. I just didn't trust that it would be received. I didn't trust that it would be received the way it was coming out of me. I didn't trust everything. I didn't trust that people were ready for everything that I was. Supervisors or audience? Combination, but definitely supervisors, definitely. Definitely. I compartmentalize myself. And I think a lot of people do that. And you can have a whole career compartmentalizing yourself and you don't think anything of it. This is who you are. You remember that Spike Lee movie, Bamboozled? My man, they asked me his audition. Man 10? Talking about Man 10? Yeah.
Sleep and eat.
They said, do you have any acting experience? He said, I act all the time at work. Yeah. That was me. I was, hey, I'm acting, I'm doing this. But, I got to the point, and I don't know if it was just maturity or just, hey, what am I doing? What am I doing? I got a lot more in me that has not come out. I'm just going to do this. And I think this is the first opportunity. This is the first time. It's not the first opportunity. It's the first time that I have brought my full self to a public project. Like we talk on the show, we talk about our wives, we talk about our kids, we talk about our fears, vulnerability, we talk about sports, we talk about God, music, we talk about everything. And I've never done that before in a job because there's always something in the back of my mind. Oh, they don't know. I don't know if they're trying to hear this for real. They can't handle this for real. I'm like, oh, why am I saying that? Let's just do it.
That's the that's the beauty of you guys' show, is that they list it as a sports show, but it's not a sports show. It's really a life show. You know, once you break it down, because you guys go where you want to go. And it may be that you only touch on sports for a short moment during that show, or you're using sports as a segue into some larger point, you know, about life or whatever it is. So, you know, I can only speak for mine, but I think what happens as you get older is that you start to ask yourself questions. And I know for me, one of them was, what's your purpose? You know, you can do this job forever and go through life, as you say, comfortable and fine and make your living and all's good, but not feel as if you're fulfilled. And I think for me, after Colin took that knee and I saw the reaction by folks on the outside, and and there was something in me said, you just can't let this go.
Right.
You know, you gotta speak on this. You know, and set the record straight that it's not about what a certain group of people are trying to say it's about. And for me, that was kind of where I found my purpose for where I wanted to go over this latter part of my career, however many years I have left. So, you know, I know it hits everybody at different times and there are different things. And, you know, for Steve, it may have been something else, but that was it for me, where it was like, okay, that's what my purpose is going forward.
Well, guys, remember back in the day, whether it was, you know, me and the two mics on the NBA beat or Jim's, you know, so on the NFL beat, all of us together. I mean, we would get together and talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, right.
Like, did you see, like, it was just us four in the press box out of 150 covering the Patriots game, the playoff game or whatever, you know? So these were conversations now that we are, you know, again, we're making public. We have avenues now to do that. I think the culture of what we do is at least listening, you know, whether they like it or not, they want to throw shade or not. But again, I think that's what it is. And Michael, you know, Michael Smith, I think, you know, when you and Jamel started this years ago, people were like, whoa, hey man, they're letting people in, you know, they're taking our green room conversation, so to speak, on air. And I think that's when a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people are like, okay, we're keeping an eye on this because we like what they're doing. Not everybody liked it, but it was okay. So now I think we're kind of seeing the groundwork that you guys laid with a little bit more bandwidth. And so, you know, did you ever look back on that and say, you know, you guys were the first ones to, maybe not the first ones, but in the format that you did step out in the way that you did?
I think there was some aspect of pioneering, definitely not the first. I mean, you know, I think about the likes of Ralph Wiley, for instance. We had a lot of forefathers and foremothers in the business, you know, who were speaking on the intersection of sports and society. I think at ESPN, we were definitely different. I mean, well, I think the biggest one was, prior to his and hers, to my knowledge, there was not a woman on television 5 days a week.
Thank you.
Driving a show alongside a man. There might have been women on television in prominent positions, but not with their own show that I'm aware of.
With an opinion.
An opinion, exactly. There might have been somebody hosting a show, setting up the man, you know, or anchoring, but not driving a show with their perspective right alongside the man. Like, we were equal. If there was such a show, I beg your pardon. There definitely was not, and Jay Adonde brought this to my attention before we did Sports Center. There wasn't, you know, two Black people hosting a show that was not a comedic show in prime time. I have not dug that up on my own. I could be missing somebody, but Yeah, I mean, I actually, Steve and I appreciate that. It's something that's allowed me to look back at the last few years from a place of pride and not pain, because I look back and I'm like, yo, we did something that kind of set a bit of a trend,
Bro, I'm gonna tell you this. You should be proud, because when you and Jamel did that podcast and we could hear two young black folk sitting in a room talking about stuff that we could relate to, whether it was red Kool-Aid or whatever, that outsiders might not understand. What does that mean? It was just so real that we would walk around with a smile on our faces as we're listening. I'm speaking for myself. I would walk around with a smile on my face as I'm listening, and I'm like, that's powerful. And so no, you should be proud of that. You and Jamel both should be proud of that, man.
When we talk about purpose, thank you. We talk about purpose though, like, so there was the podcast and how unapologetic and how important the podcast was. And we look how we see, and this was when podcasts weren't exactly like this booming business.
Exactly.
Right.
They had some big ones, but it's gone to another level now. But what really makes me proud, you talk about purpose, is when we were able to rename the show His and Hers, and when the show started to take on the personality of the podcast, because before it started as Numbers Never Lie, which was more of a sports show. His and Hers was a culture show. The amount of people who were able to, at least in some small part, guys, find themselves on His and Hers, or at least it was someplace where they could go and be themselves. Like, there were people that within the halls of ESPN who would come on our show and it's like a different person.
Yep.
Than they were somewhere else. And they would tell us that they were able to be their unapologetic selves. So even for Michael, like, and I'm not, Michael, we joke about, you owing me money or whatever. Not like, I'm not looking at it for credit, because I needed it too. But when Michael earlier was talking about him, this being the most he's brought his whole self to a show, like, I knew that coming into this. I knew that part of the reason I did this was because Michael needed me to do this. Like, he needed to do, like, I'd done this already. Like, just like for New York Times bestseller, Michael Holley, been there, done that. Like an unapologetically black sports talk show or culture show. I've done that already. I didn't need to do that again. But Michael needed to have me here by his side to do a show. The one thing he hadn't done was a show like this in Michael's career. Like, the one thing he hadn't done was something like this. So I'm like, not only do I have some unfinished business, so to speak, but my mans need me. You know what I mean? Like, he needed me to do this show, and he didn't have to tell me that for me to know that he needed me to do it. And so on Thanksgiving, Michael was talking about how thankful he was for a show that allowed him to be to show and share the man of faith that he is, the father that he is, the music lover, the writer that he is, to be on a show like that. And so that made me feel good, knowing that I got, a part in bringing that side out of him that the people at WEI weren't, for some reason didn't, well, I know the reason, but the people at WEI didn't allow for him to bring it forward, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Quickly, we're going to stop. We're going to stop down for just a second. Michael, your camera is tilting to your left, kind of. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael Holley. Yep, there we go. Yeah. Thomas, is that good? Come down just a little, Michael Holley. There you go.
Bam. Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah.
Got it? We're good?
We're good.
Okay, so guys, I'm kind of looking at the meter here. So, Michael Holley, we're going to pivot a little. Michael, you got a new book coming out, right? Another one.
Yeah.
Another one.
Another one. I'm going DJ Khaled.
Before I get there, though.
Yes.
Before I get there, let me just add one more thing. Hey, Mike, you know this. One more thing, Mike. Mike always teases me when I say one more thing. It's like 20 minutes, but I promise it won't be. I see a clock here. I'm looking at the clock. The one thing that I think people need to realize about Mike and Jamel at ESPN is they made it happen. And I always say, when I talk to students and they say, hey, what do you think employers are looking for? Should I do this because employers want that? Should I do that? I'm like, what do you want to do? Don't look at it from their perspective. Look at it from your perspective, because ESPN didn't come up with his and hers. They didn't come up with the name. Mike and Jamel came up with that. They didn't come up with the show. Mike and Jamel had the podcast. Let me tell it. He's not an ESPN employee. They didn't want Jamel on the show initially. Mike pushed for it. He was like, hey, what about Jamel? Because they had this whole idea in their head of what a show was supposed to be. And Mike was like, I was there for the whole thing. I took notes. I was gonna write a book on it. I'm just kidding. I was there for the whole thing. So I know the history. And when they got together and they were doing the podcast, and then the podcast, his and hers, became the show, it wasn't just that they did this, hey, we got it. They went out of their way to make sure that people who weren't being recognized in the media, people who didn't have their voices out there prominently, were getting some run on their show. So I would say, I remember, like, a lot of people got started on his and hers.
Yes.
That's the first time I heard of them on that
I remember
show.
them having me on. You know?
Ellis Wiley, a whole lot of guys
Seriously.
came up blowing up. Yeah.
And they launched. So I think that's important. Like, know what you want. Don't go about this business, navigating this business, wondering, do they see me? Do they like me?
Oh, that'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
But can I
What do
also
you
say
think?
this, Michael Holley? One of the takeaways from what happened with Michael and Jamel, in my opinion, that's been a true lesson for everyone in this business, is that they realize their own power in terms of creating their own companies, being their own bosses, and not having to answer to others. And I think that's so important for young people coming in now. And it's like, do you want to work for someone, or do you want to have someone work for you? So we get so caught up, and I'm again, I say we, I'll speak for me. When you first get in this business, there's this ego thing that kind of drives you. Like, I want to be the man on this beat. I want to be the authority, whatever. And then you start to realize as you go along over the years, you really don't have any power.
Yeah.
Power is those people in the glass office that nobody knows, because they determine what story's being written, who's doing it, what kind of play it's getting, all of that. So, if you guys can, before we get out of here, if there's one lesson I would give to young folks, it would be, don't always look to be, so to speak, in front of the camera. Realize the power behind it.
Ooh, that's
And
good.
is there something you guys have for these young folks coming in into the business in terms of a way to approach it, a way to be successful? Because this business is changing so fast.
Yep.
What advice would you give the young folk who are going to listen to this podcast and aspire to be, either of you?
I'll take it. I've enjoyed over the years, looking back, I've enjoyed reinventing myself at various stops, and not always by choice. Some of it's been because certain opportunity wasn't available to me that I thought I wanted. Some of it's been, just looking for the next challenge, like now. But I think the thing, you're right, Trot. A lot of people, especially young people, they want the talk show. They want they want to give their opinion. They want to be on camera. They want to be famous, and I think the thing I would stress to young people, because I struggle with this question a lot, because it's like, man, the business is so different than when we all came in. There was no social media. There was no internet. You know what I mean? It was newspaper, it was radio, it was television. You had to work your way up in one of those mediums, right? I would say to them, so like, stop believing that you know what you want at an early age. It's okay to have goals, okay to have aspirations, but it's like, too often I find young people kind of just get this tunnel vision when it comes to what they want to do, and this is the only path to get there, when it's like there's an opportunity, or more important, a relationship waiting for you that can help you to grow and evolve in ways you don't even know. It's like, don't turn up your nose at these opportunities. Don't turn up your nose at these these relationships that are staring you in the face, that could take you on a path that you don't even realize could be the best one for you. You know, like sometimes it's just about showing up, being energetic, being available, being accountable, being reliable. Those types of things, and developing relationships along the way, those types of things take you much farther than whatever talent you think you have. And you could end up doing something that you never imagined. Just if you want to be a storyteller, you'll be a storyteller behind the camera. You'll be a storyteller as a producer, as a director, as a writer with a byline, or, you know, all those skills translate. So I would just say, you know, worry about just, you know, sharpening your skills and worrying about developing relationships and embracing opportunities and not feeling like, man, you know, I want to be on TV. How do I get on TV? Well, you know, how do you become a better storyteller? It should be the question you're asking yourself. How do you become a better journalist? You know, before you talk about how you get on television, that may or may not come, and you might find out that that's not really what you wanted in the first place.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I like that you mentioned the relationship part. I'm gonna bring it full circle, and I'll say, get a mentor who actually call you back.
Yeah.
But no, mentoring is so important. I think about when I left, when I was at the Akron Beacon Journal, first newspaper I worked for, and I had gotten a job at the Globe, and I remember the publisher at the time, the Akron Beacon Journal, was a brother named John Dotson, and John Dotson, he took me out to lunch, and I was convinced. I was so arrogant and so stupid, you know, at 23. He took me out to lunch, and I thought I had convinced myself he was taking me out to lunch to talk me out of this opportunity. I'm like, man, I can't believe this guy is trying to talk me out of this. I got a chance to go to the Boston Globe. And what he was trying to say was, you're going to Boston, make sure you haven't made it. You haven't made it. Just make sure that you are connecting with people who can help you grow. And he said, do you have a mentor? I was like, nah, man, I don't have a mentor. Like, what I need a mentor for? He was so right. And there's so many, as I look back, there were people who were mentors who forced me to look up to them and to listen to them. And I'm glad they did. Because you wind up doing things unnecessarily. You wind up trying to reinvent something that doesn't need to be reinvented. Somebody has traveled that road already for you. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle in that particular area because somebody has already done it. And so I think about times that I've taken a job for money and somebody told me not to do it. I did it anyway. That wound up being Fox Sports Net and IMAX. That was a mistake. But somebody told me not to do that. I did it anyway. So, I mean, there are so many examples where a mentor can help you. Just even if you say, all right, thank you for the advice. That's another perspective. I'm going to go my own road. Just hearing a lot of different voices before you make a decision is valuable. I think mentoring now is good. I'm looking for
it never stops.
You brothers. Right. I'm looking for y'all to mentor me. I'm still looking for a mentor.
Can I cheat? I'll try to make this one quick. And I'll just if I could go back and add, I will just say also don't be so. Success is not linear. It's just don't feel like everything is a setback or an obstacle or even the F word, a failure. You know, a lot of these things that either happen to you or decisions that you make that you may feel like are mistakes really aren't. Word. You know, it's all growth opportunities. It's all stepping stones. You know, it's all stepping stones, man. That's the only thing I would add, you know, to these young people. They feel like if it doesn't happen overnight, they get frustrated and discouraged. Please don't be.
Don't do
Steve,
that.
I want you to give your thoughts too, man.
Yeah, just quickly, to me is watch how people handle themselves. I mean, you know, just coming up, you know, I coming up, you know, high school sports, college sports. When I got to the NBA, you know, David Aldridge, and we've all been around DA. I mean, just a high character dude, but you would see how he would work a room, how he'd work a locker room, how he'd work team executives. And it was always just so distinguished. In terms of he was smooth with it.
That's a good word.
He was great.
Yeah.
Man, I love that brother, man. I love him.
Yeah, right. But I mean, just you would just watch him. And I'd be like, man, everybody talks to DA. And it's because he didn't burn them, but he was great at what he did, but just how he carried himself. He could work an arena. He could go from a locker room to a sideline to wherever and work 15 stories without probably even recognizing it, all because of he handled himself in such a way. So I was just like, this is how I'm going to just carry myself. I'm going to wear a sport coat now, because back when we were coming up, guys, remember dudes wear shorts to freaking games. They come in the NFL press box wearing shorts.
What?
Like, what are you doing? Oh yeah,
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
but we could or should never do that.
Never
Like,
do that.
you know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
for us. Like,
Right.
the rules were different. I had to learn that lesson too. I went walking into thankfully I learned it in college. Dress for the job I want, not the one I have. But back then I thought I could walk around in shorts and a t-shirt. That don't fly for us. You know?
No.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
No, but I mean that's one thing. And the other thing is just kind of a credo I've always lived by is nobody wants to hear excuses or explanations. Just do the job.
Speak on it.
So yeah, so that's kind of how I've lived it. But again, mentoring,
nobody cares.
Somebody carries themselves. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Watch how people carry themselves, but how you want to behave and how you don't want to behave.
Yes, sir.
Jim, you can't sit this one out.
No, I spoke on it in the beginning. You know,
okay.
So I look. All I'm thinking right now is for the young folks out there listening to this. This is like a master's course in this business, and you got brothers on here who are telling you, you know, from their years of decades of experience in this business, how to go about it. And one of the things I thought that was so poignant was what Michael Holley said in terms of, you know, my dad always taught me when playing dominoes, all money ain't good money. And so if you chasing the dollar, more than likely you're going to get yourself in trouble somewhere along the way. So don't cheat the process is what, you know, what I would always say. You know, it's all right there are steps that have to be taken and very few people get to skip them. So anyway, I know we're wrong, but I appreciate you guys offering that advice to folks.
Yep. I love it too, because it's important. So Michael, tell us about your new book, and then we're going to have a quick little fun before we peace out here. All right, real quick on the book. It's been in the works for 8 years. It's straight up. I in 2012, 13, I had this idea of trying to follow a championship team as it tried one more or last, gasp at the title. The Celtics had just lost to the Heat in 7 games. Remember LeBron in that great game 6, 45 points, 15 rebounds. So they lost. They were up 3-2 in that series. They lost that series in 7. Ray Allen left Miami. They had KG. They had Paul Pierce. So I was actually traveling with the team. I was on the team plane at practices. It was great. When KG and Carmelo had their little thing, I could smell Carmelo's breath as he tried to get on the Celtics bus to kick KG's butt.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
And so who stopped him? And Mike knows I call him this. Our second black president, Doc Rivers. Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, exactly. No, but it was like close. He was like, "Come on, Melo, this ain't you, Melo. Come on, don't do this, Melo." Melo's like, "Nah, Doc, man, I'm going at you." But anyway, it was all this great stuff, but I just didn't feel like the book wasn't. I didn't want the book to be that. So I talked about a failure. I felt like, man, this book is not going to happen. This is not the book I want to write. A year goes by, 2 years go by. I wrote another book. I wrote another book after that. Then I saw Doc like a year and a half ago in Boston. He was like, "The book you should do is The Big Three." I said, "You know what? You're right." I said, "You're right. That's the book." So I was able to do this book on just this snapshot of not just Celtics basketball, but the NBA history. Because I'll make the case, and I'll say this, and I'll leave it alone. Let you guys tell me if I'm wrong on it. I make the case that the 2008 Celtics were the last conventionally created super team. In other words, Danny Ainge has Paul Pierce. He trades for Ray Allen. He trades for a KG. They didn't ask to be together. It just kind of happened. That's the last time we've really seen a super team built like that, unless they were drafted from from the floor up. Because LeBron and Bosh and Wade didn't do it that way. LeBron didn't do it that way when he went back to Cleveland. LeBron didn't do it that way when he went to LA and told AD to come with him. KD didn't do it that way when he went to Oakland and then went out to Brooklyn. So I think the big three was the last time the guys just kind of came together through a general manager to form a super team. But it was a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun to put it together. And it's my first basketball book. So I hope people enjoy it.
I know I will.
I'm
definitely going to check it out.
Yep, the big three. Okay, so on that note then, okay, however you want it, let's have a little fun here. Your favorite big three, your favorite NBA big three. I'll start it off with MJ, Pippen, and Rodman.
Does it have to be NBA?
No, okay, go. Let's broaden it. Doesn't
triplets?
have to.
Can I go triplets? Only because of, for me it was, man, because I grew up in New Orleans, but I'll be honest, I got sick of the Saints choking in the playoffs. So I fell in love with the Cowboys in like I want to say it was 90, because I feel like they went 7-9 in 90. They were on the come up when they got Emmett. They went 11-5 in 91, and Irvin used to give Dion the business on Thursday Night Football back in the day. I remember the slant routes all day long, and so yeah, I got that triplet era Jimmy Johnson Cowboys was what I grew up loving. Oh, I'm sorry, I got two, but NBA. I'm gonna give you an NBA window. Run TMC.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Oh, I love it.
I love the Golden State Warriors back in the day. That was my Don. I used to, because they weren't, they had a new bowl at center, and they never broke through in the playoffs, but they were fun to watch. They
had Barcelonas too on the fringe. Yeah, they were nice, man.
When they got Chris Webber for Penny Hardaway on draft night, I went and got this extra medium jersey, and I was happy for about a year. Then they traded him to the Bullets. I'm like, man, can't have nothing, So yeah, the Warriors.
Now you're in Jim's wheelhouse talking about the Warriors.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Holley.
Yeah, man. I grew up in Akron, and so back in the day, this is long before LeBron. So the Cavaliers were always like 23-59. They were the Ted Stepien rule Cavaliers. You know what I mean? So I always had to have a second team. Now, my second team was Philly. So when they got Moses, man. So we have Moses, we had Doc, and you can put in Andrew Toney as a third. I would personally say Mo Cheeks. I love Mo Cheeks.
Oh, you have to have Mo in there.
Yep.
So
you have to have Mo in there.
Hey man, that was my team. The 83 Sixers, that was my squad. I'm like 5'8", and I used to play ball. I wore number 2 playing basketball like I was like a 5'8" dude playing like Moses. Back to the basket. They be like, man, can't you dribble? I'm like, no, I'm Moses, man. Let me do my little.
Hey, man.
First high school to the pros when it came to the ABA for the Virginia Squires.
That sounds personally, that sounds like your second basketball book to me. That's a team like recognized as one of the all-time greats, but they don't get in the 80s, especially. It's Lakers documentaries coming out, Celtics documentaries.
That's the squad.
The 83 Celtics.
Because it was 1 year. That's because it was 1 year.
But it was an all-time great team.
No question.
It was 67 games they won that year?
65.
65, yeah.
65, and they lost one playoff game.
Right.
That's it. Lost
Bro,
one
you already
playoff.
got the title. If you put a full title on there, we talk about it. That's it. Full.
Who was it? Pieces of a Dream? 4, 5,
Yeah.
4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? But with them, I mean, it's like with the Hall of Fame for me, it's got to be more than 1 year. Especially we talking greatness. There's got to be a consistency there. Look, I'll say this: you both being Boston residents now. For me, my first love in basketball was even though I love the Warriors, having grown up in the Bay Area and whatnot, our teams were always so bad that when Magic Johnson left, Michigan State and went to the Lakers, and all of a sudden you see Magic and Kareem and Worthy. That was like it for me. And especially with them playing Boston. I mean, that rivalry, I don't care who writes it, what it is. I'm in it. I'm watching it. I'm reading it because it's just so compelling to have. You think back to those teams, how many number 1 overall draft picks would be on a roster back in that day, coming off the bench. Michael Thompson.
Byron Scott. I mean, he had all these studs.
Go with it. You had Kareem, Magic, Worthy, Michael Thompson, all coming off the bench. But if we were doing football, as Michael Smith alluded to, for me, I'd have to go back to those 49er teams where you had Montana, Rice, and Lott. Woo. You know, oh my God, that was it for me. So
you could have gone a lot of directions here. You could have been like Roger Craig, Dion.
No, Joe. I know. I grudgingly have to give Tom his due as the greatest when you got 6, but Joe was the man.
Joe for you?
Yeah, and Jerry, we know the greatest of all time, and Ronnie. I know we get in trouble for saying this now, but Ronnie was pure physicality. Oh yeah, pure violence, which is what this game is supposed to be about. And there was nothing better than what Ronnie calls, these are his words, a woo hit, where when you hit that dude, everybody goes woo. we waited on those from Ronnie.
How many dudes on Ronnie Lott, real quick? How many dudes, if any, started as a cornerback and went to safety for strategic reasons? Usually they'll go to safety like at the end, like, all right, you lost a step, but then go to safety and lower the boom like he did. Not just like, like I'm roaming in the middle of like he was like all-time great safety, but started as a cornerback.
And was a great corner.
Wait. No, but remember, he went from safety in college to corner, which is even more rare. Yeah, he was a safety at USC. He and Dennis Smith were back there together. And he came to the 49ers. They needed corners. Remember, they had 2 rookies at corner his first year, Ronnie and Eric Wright. Yep. And they had a 3rd rookie at safety in Carlton Williamson, and they had a street free agent in Dwight Hicks at the other safety spot. So you had 3 rookies in that secondary and a street free agent. And Ronnie made the transition from safety in college to corner in the rookie, becoming a Pro Bowler, to then later going back to safety. Just an incredible.
Only other dude I can think of, I think that they had like wasn't Cornell Lake corner to safety too? Like mid-career?
Injury
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
And I know Woodson and Rod
did. Both Woodsons. Both Woodsons.
Oh yeah, that's
Rod and Charles.
Yeah, Charles is a good one. Charles is all pro corner.
Okay, real quick on the way out, and this is in tribute because your former partner Jamel Hill was tripping on this answer, Mike. Okay, a song.
Steve ain't gonna let this go.
A song that has been redone. Okay, I guess the framing of the question was, what song should never should be redone? She said Casey and JoJo, though.
Oh,
did If You Think You're Lonely Now better than Bobby Womack? Okay, so
they did a good job.
They did a good job, but no, thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah. That's a no-no. All right, so if you could think, because I know you're big on this, Mike, a song that should never be redone.
I'm gonna go with something that. Oh yeah, here's a song that bothered me recently. That somebody tried to kind of do a little cover of what's my song? The Gap Band, "Yearning for Your Love."
Oh wow!
Somebody did.
I heard someone threw a hook. Someone threw a hook on it. Yeah,
all right. But this is the one that might piss people off. It might piss present company off. It has already been redone, and it bothers me every time it comes on. And it's the only thing this human being has ever done in life to bother me, because otherwise she is a goddess and she is perfect.
Okay, no, I agree with you. I agree.
Beyonce should never have done Before I Let Go, because unfortunately what it did was there are too many people that put that on instead of the original at the cookout or at the party. And I'm like, nah, don't be playing that. Like, I mean, you can maybe play that after you play Frankie Beverly and Maze. But too many people think that that's the original song because Beyonce made it. I think all the Beyonce fans like, oh, you make me happy. I'm like, do you know what you're singing? Like, do you know what you're singing right now? So I would say that's the biggest one for me. That actually bothers me to my core, especially growing up in New Orleans. That one bothers me to my core.
Yeah, it's easy. It's Stevie Wonder's "As." Don't ever touch it. Don't touch it.
I don't know. Can anybody even try? That's some vocal That's some vocal gymnastics right there.
And everybody should stop messing around. There are about 100 versions of This Christmas by Donny Hathaway. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. That's his. That's his.
Wait, but we talked about, Steve, you mentioned, I mean, I got to give a slight nod, for the young folk. Chris Brown
did a good job.
He did a good
job.
I was just watching this the other day on Netflix. That's a great movie this Christmas. That was an incredible movie.
We watch it every year, yeah. But y'all know Frankie's, live in New Orleans is in my car, it's in my iPod, it's everywhere.
That's why you're the man. The Sanger Theater, baby.
Come on, man.
Hey, Mike,
how many times? Here's the last question. How many times have you seen Frankie Beverly live? I think I'm up to 4 or 5.
Not enough. You probably got more than me. Probably twice. I want to say you got me at
St. Louis, Miami, seen him in Atlanta,
in a casino, but not enough, brother. Not enough. Tell you the truth.
Hey, Mike, you tell him what I was trying to do the other day? He was messing with me. I was trying to go. What was it? I did it, right?
There you go.
You got it. You got
it now. You were
got it.
butchering it the other day. You were butchering it. We were talking about his top 5. You nailed it just now. Thank you.
But you know what?
Like we're talking about Frankie on the show. Frankie either went through this stuff, like Frankie really was longing for a woman, or he's just a great listener. He's sitting around with a bunch of brothers down in their luck. He's like, you know what? I got y'all. I'm gonna make a song for you. Because that is real. That's right there. You feel it right there.
But you know what's hard though, as we get older, when you go and you watch them now, like I've seen Frankie probably, I want to say almost a dozen times, but we saw him recently out here in San Diego where he was playing with in one of those whatever they call it, where they have a bunch of groups together. It ain't the same, man, and it broke my heart.
Carl got to carry him now. It's about you got to go and you got to do most of the singing for him at this point.
No, Mike, we flew to Arizona to see him one time to do that, and his voice went out on stage, and it was cool because the crowd sang all the songs for him, like you said.
Yeah.
But now it's like the pace, the beat is like a half beat slower.
Oh,
and and it's like, come on, Frank, give it to me. And it never arrived.
He'd be like, look, let's just listen to the records. Come on, y'all just
just come out on stage and turn the record on. I'm good. Let's
I don't put my work in. I put my work in.
Try. Were y'all wearing all white? That's the question. Were y'all wearing all white when y'all went to this event?
We did not, because it was quote unquote winter time in San Diego. So we had on a sweater and whatnot, and it was late. It was late. But y'all know about these bands that come out, like the Gap Band. Once we went to see them at the Oakland Coliseum back in the day. And they're going to come on at like 2 a.m. and get mad when the crowd is like half asleep. I'm like, respect your audience a little more. I know you back there eating dinner and chilling and whatnot. You're going to come on at 2 o'clock.
Right. This is your job. We got to work in the morning.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, fellas, I got to dip. I got to go into the studio right now and do some stuff. But want to thank you so much for joining us right here. Yeah. Appreciate you big time. All love.
Hands emoji, prayers emoji. Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Let's do it.
Steve, I have to admit, I think we've had a lot of great episodes on this podcast, great guests and everything. But just in terms of the conversation, I got to be honest, this one I really enjoyed because, it was like 4 friends sitting around, a dinner table. After the meal, having a glass of, for you all, it would be wine and whatnot. For me, it would be lemonade. And then just having a conversation about, life and work and family and all those sorts of things. And I didn't even feel like this was a podcast. To me, it just felt like 4 friends getting together who hadn't seen each other in a little while, having a conversation. And for that, I appreciate them.
Jim, it's so cool, when I think about Michael Smith and Michael Holley. Again, our days when I was covering the NBA and I'd be up in Boston, and me and Michael Holley would be out with Coach Willie May, a local Boston figure up there having dinner or doing whatever. And just the intellectual conversation with Michael was fantastic. But then Mike Smith, when I was making the transition from the written journalist to the broadcast journalist, I was doing part-time stuff at ESPN. And I was actually brought up to Bristol, and Mike Smith was hosting the show. I was like, wait a second, dude. I remember when you were like an intern covering the NBA. Okay, big ups to you. But he was the man because he's so good. But you know what just heartened me so much about that interview is when we talked about him and Jamel Hill at ESPN really staking their own claim to what they were doing and making it their own. And even though there were haters to it, there were also people like you and I and so many people in this industry who are like, we love this because this is different. It's like going, like me transferring from University of Missouri to Howard, like, oh, okay, now I'm at home. And just the fact that they kind of really established, I won't say established, but again, heightened the genre on that platform they did at ESPN. And again, it's something you and I have followed, and you know, the Mike and Mike have followed, and some other folks have followed. I just loved hearing Mike discuss that.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about both, say, Michael and Jamel that I really respect is that as big as they are and as much success as they've had, you never got the feeling that you were being big time. You know, it's like there are some, as you know, in our business, the egos can get out of control once you start to climb that ladder a little bit. And with both of them now, you can just shoot them a text. Hey, can you come on the show? We want to talk to you for a minute. First thing, absolutely. When do you need me? You know, that sort of thing. And I just find that I remember we had Jamel one time when she was working at ESPN. We asked her to come out. Every year we have our local chapter of NABJ, the San Diego Association of Black Journalists. We have a scholarship reception where we give out money to local aspiring journalists on the high school and the college level. And I remember we were all sitting around trying to figure out who could we get to come out and speak one year. And someone brought up Jamel, and they were like, oh, I don't know that we can get her, and what, you know, and this, that, and the other. I said, let me make a call. Called her up, no problem. She came right out and did the scholarship reception for us and killed it. So for me, that's what's so impressive about the two of them. You know, when you need them, they're there, and they just have so much insight, so much experience that they can give to the younger folks. And that's another thing I loved about this episode, that if you're an aspiring journalist or a young journalist, there's a lot in there for you to chew on and learn from, and it should help you going forward.
Absolutely. All right, Jim. Well, that wraps up another episode here. So bring us home, my brother.
Well, again, we thank you all for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. Leave us your comments. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Let us know, you know, who you want us to talk to, what topics you'd like us to talk about. That way, we can give you more of what you're funking for.
And folks, Jim, I, and Thomas can't thank you enough for all the kind words you're leaving us on social media and everything like this. We're catching a fire. Okay. The snowball is rolling downhill. Spread the word about how rich this podcast is. What you like about it, again, like what you don't like about it, but spread the word, because we're not going away now. You guys have made us into something. Jim, the folks out there have made us into something. And we just cannot thank you enough. And real quick, speaking of mics, we had 2 mics on today. Jim, next week, we are scheduled to have another mic on. Why don't you give them a little bit of tease before I get us out of here?
Let me just say that one of the biggest disappointments in my career was as a beat writer for the San Diego Chargers, and they had the #1 pick in the draft. And the expectation that year was that they were going to take a quarterback #1 overall. And let me just say that quarterback was coming out of Virginia Tech. And the then head coach of the San Diego Chargers, Mike Riley, called him, said he could be the Michael Jordan of the NFL. And the Chargers traded away the pick, and I never got a chance to cover him as a beat writer. But look, you guys know this. That year, when Michael Vick was coming out, he was the hottest thing in football. And something that I, had really never seen. Even, I thought he was even different. I know Steve Young could run and throw and all of that. Michael Vick just seemed to be of another, I don't know what you would call it, but I didn't get that chance. So you did. I'm envious of you from that standpoint, but that's who we're having on.
And we can't wait, because this is going to be real, because Mike and I, when I worked in Atlanta, we went through the highs, the lows, and the rebirth is one of the most incredible stories and things that I've experienced in my career. So we're going to talk about that all next week. But for Jim Trotter, for Thomas Warren, I'm Steve Weitz. We are the Howard Mob on the Huddle and Flow podcast, and we are out.